Prabhupada, Paramahamsa, Acharya, Ashtotra Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, entitled Creation, Chapter 17, Punishment and Reward of Kali, and we're on text 35. Sutuvacha Parikshitaivam Adishta Sakalir Jatave Patuhu Tam Udyatasim Ahedam Dandapanim Ivodyatam Sutuvacha Parikshitaivam Adishta Sakalir Jatave Pataha Tam Udyatasim Ahedam Dandapanim Ivodyatam Sutuvacha Parikshitaivam Adishta Sakalir Jatave Patuhu Tam Udyatasim Ahedam Dandapanim Ivodyatam Alright, word by word, translation. Sutta Vacha, Sri Sutta Goswami said, Parikshita by Maharaj Parikshit. Evam, thus, Adishtaha, being ordered. Saha, He. Kali He. The personality of Kali. Jata. There was. Vepatuhu. Trembling. Tam. Him. Udita. Raised. Asim. Sword. Aha. Said. Idam. Thus. Dandapanim. Yamaraj. The personality of death. Eva. Like. Uditam. Almost ready. Translation. Sri Sutta Goswami said, the personality of Kali, thus being ordered by Maharaj Parikshit, began to tremble in fear. Seeing the king before him like Yamaraj, ready to kill him, Kali spoke to the king as follows. Purport. The king was ready to kill the personality of Kali at once, as soon as he disobeyed his order. Otherwise, the king had no objection to allowing him to prolong his life. The personality of Kali also, after attempting to get rid of the punishment in various ways, decided that he must surrender unto him, and thus began to tremble in fear of his life. The king, or the executive head, must be so strong as to stand before the personality of Kali, like the personality of death, Yamaraj. The king's order must be obeyed, otherwise the culprit's life is in risk. That is the way to rule the personalities of Kali, who create disturbance in the normal life of the state citizens. So it's a short purport, I'll just read a few more. O your Majesty, though I may live anywhere and everywhere under your order, I shall but see you with bow and arrows wherever I look. Purport. The personality of Kali could see that Maharaj Parikshit was the emperor of all lands all over the world, and thus anywhere he might live, he would have to meet with the same mood of the king. The personality of Kali was meant for mischief, and Maharaj Parikshit was meant for subduing all kinds of mischief mongers, especially the personality of Kali. It was better, therefore, for the personality of Kali to have been killed by the king then and there instead of being killed elsewhere. He was, after all, a surrendered soul before the king, and it was for the king to do what was required. Therefore, O chief amongst the protectors of religion, please fix some place for me where I can live permanently under protection of your government. Purport. The personality of Kali addressed Maharaj Parikshit as the chief amongst the protectors of religiosity because the king refrained from killing a person who was surrendered unto him. A surrendered soul should be given all protection, even though he may be an enemy. That is the principle of religion. And we can just imagine what sort of protection is given by the personality of Godhead to the person who surrenders unto him, not as an enemy, but as a devoted servitor. The Lord protects the surrendered soul from all sins and all resultant reactions of sinful acts. Bhagavad Gita 1866. Okay, so just one more. 38. Sutuvacha abhitartitastada tasmai stananani kalau dadau dutam panam shiyasuna yatra dharmaschaturvidaha. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, thus being petitioned by the personality of Kali, gave him permission to reside in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter were performed. Purport. The basic principles of irreligiosity, such as pride, prostitution, intoxication, and falsehood, counteract the four principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. The personality of Kali was given permission to live in four places particularly mentioned by the king, namely the place of gambling, the place of prostitution, the place of drinking, and the place of animal slaughter. Srila Jiva Goswami directs that drinking against the principles of scriptures, such as the Satormani Yagya, association with women outside marriage, and killing animals against the injunctions of scriptures are irreligious. In the Vedas, two different types of injunctions are there for pravittas, or those who are engaged in material enjoyment, and for the nirvittas, or those who are liberated from material bondage. The Vedic injunction for the pravrittas is to gradually regulate their activities towards the path of liberation. Therefore, for those who are in the lowest stage of ignorance and who indulge in wine, women, and flesh, drinking by performing saturmani yagya, association of women by marriage, and flesh-eating by sacrifices are sometimes recommended. Such recommendations in the Vedic literature are meant for a particular class of men and not for all. But because they are injunctions of the Vedas for particular types of persons, such activities by the privritas are not considered a dharma. One man's food may be poison for others. Similarly, what is recommended for those in the mode of ignorance may be poison for those in the mode of goodness. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu, therefore, affirms that recommendations in the scriptures for a certain class of men are never to be considered adharma or irreligious. But such activities are factually adharma, and they are never to be encouraged. The recommendations in the scriptures are not meant for the encouragement of such a dharma, but for regulating the necessary dharma gradually toward the path of dharma. Following in the footsteps of Maharaj Parikshit, it is the duty of all executive heads of states to see that the principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, are established in the state, and that the principles of irreligion, namely pride, illicit female association or prostitution, intoxication, and falsity, are checked by all means. And to make the best use of a bad bargain, the personality of Kali may be transferred to places of gambling, drinking, prostitution, and slaughterhouses, if there are any places like that. Those who are addicted to these irreligious habits may be regulated by the injunctions of the scripture. In no circumstances should they be encouraged by any state. In other words, the state should categorically stop all sorts of gambling, drinking, prostitution, and falsity. The state which wants to eradicate corruption by majority may introduce the principles of religion in the following manner. 1, 2 compulsory fasting days in a month, if not more, austerity. Even from the economic point of view, such 2 fasting days in a month in the state will save tons of food, and the system will also act very favorably on the general health of the citizens. 2. There must be compulsory marriage of young boys and girls attaining 24 years of age and 16 years of age respectively. There is no harm in co-education in the schools and colleges, provided the boys and girls are duly married, and in case there is any intimate connection between a male and a female student, they should be married properly without illicit relation. The Divorce Act is encouraging prostitution, and this should be abolished. 3. The citizens of the state must give in charity up to 50% of their income for the purpose of creating a spiritual atmosphere in the state or in human society, both individually and collectively. They should preach the principles of Bhagavatam by A. Karma Yoga, or doing everything for the satisfaction of the Lord, B. Regular hearing of the Srimad Bhagavatam from authorized persons or realized souls, C. Chanting of the glories of the Lord congregationally at home or at places of worship, D. Rendering all kinds of service to the Bhagavats engaged in preaching Srimad Bhagavatam, and E. Residing in a place where the atmosphere is saturated with God consciousness. If the state is regulated by the above process, naturally there will be God consciousness everywhere. Gambling of all description, even speculative business enterprise, is considered to be degrading. And when gambling is encouraged in the state, there is a complete disappearance of truthfulness. Allowing young boys and girls to remain unmarried more than the above-mentioned ages and licensing animal slaughters of all descriptions should be at once prohibited. The flesh eaters may be allowed to take flesh as mentioned in the scriptures and not otherwise. Intoxication of all description, even smoking cigarettes, chewing tobacco, or the drinking of tea must be prohibited. This ends the purport. Om Ganativedandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulan Melitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ukam Karitivachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat kripa tamaham vande Shigurun diditarinam Vancha kalptarubhishcha kripa sindhu bhevacha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama So from hearing these verses from the Bhagavatam that we just heard in the purport, the last purport we just read, we could see how far modern society or postmodern society is from how far it's from the standard of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Practically everywhere in the world, America and everywhere, America's maybe one of the leading countries, it is all four of these principles. All four of these principles means the four principles that we're against. Illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. And it's not, Srila Prabhupada saying here in the purport that it should be discouraged. Why? Because it is degrading, it is against any type of real spiritual life or religious life. And it is against, the goal of life. It doesn't help at all in attaining the goal of life by breaking these principles. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada is saying, discourage it, discourage it, discourage it. And what is modern society doing nowadays? They're encouraging it, encouraging it, encouraging it ad infinitum, just full on encouragement of these different sinful habits and principles. And people become so conditioned by this type of lifestyle that it's impossible practically for them to live without these things. Just like Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers from the Gaudiya Math, they went to London to preach under the order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And when they went there, they met many people, and you could say ultimately they weren't successful, but they did have some success in meeting some different personalities, and a few devotees came from that. But of course, Yamuna Devi and Guru Das and Srila Prabhupada's household disciples, they went there and they're really successful. But anyways, when Prabhupada's godbrothers went there, they met one Lord Zetlin, Marquis Zetlin. And for whatever reason, this particular Lord, this Zetlin, he wanted to be a Brahmin. He heard about, Brahmin and it's high class or whatever he was thinking. He wanted to be a Brahmin. So then Zetlin asked Prabhupada's godbrothers, so can you make me a Brahmin? And then they said, yeah, we can make you a Brahmin, but you have to follow these principles. And then he said, oh yeah, what are those? And then they said, well, there's 4 principles you have to follow. No meat eating, no intoxication, no taking intoxicants, no gambling, and no illicit sex. So at that particular point, Lord Zetlin, he said, oh, that's impossible. I can't live without that. So, and that's how a lot of people are actually. This is impossible. It's impossible. That these 4 things are like the fuel of their life. This is what they live for, actually. The illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. And therefore, such places as Las Vegas exist. So people could really, indulge in these things. So here in these verses and purports, Kali is being threatened by Maharaj Parikshit that to be killed, and and Kali, he surrendered to Maharaj Parikshit, and then the king said, "Okay, fine, I won't kill you." But then Kali was requesting uh, a place where he could reside. And Maharaj Parikshit, he gave him permission to reside in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution, animal slaughter were performed. So, so you could say in some ways to follow these principles is quite basic, and not difficult to follow these principles. Four regulative principles, chain 16 rounds. In some ways, it's basic and easy. But to follow them throughout one's life, sometimes people have difficulty doing that. Sometimes devotees have difficulty doing that. Of course, a lot of the times devotees don't fall so low to eat meat, but sometimes they do. So the idea is that within our Krishna consciousness, we want to be careful that what is distasteful to us, what is immoral to us, what is wrong to us, it is wrong, objectively wrong. We should be very careful not to become attracted to those things. We should be careful not to become attracted to those things. And again, devotees do become attracted to those things. A lot of the times people give up Krishna consciousness to indulge in those things. Or they give up strict practice of Krishna consciousness to indulge in those things. Therefore, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he's saying that in order for us to be successful, in order for us to make progress, we have to have a higher taste. Vishayan vinivartante nirahasadena rasavarjam rasopyasya param dvishtva navartate. So that verse is saying that the soul, although it may be restricted from sense objects, the attraction still remains. Lingering attraction still remains. But by experiencing a higher taste, they're fixed in consciousness, they're able to continue. So we have to have that higher taste. So then the question is, okay, how do we get the higher taste, right? How do we experience the nectar of Krishna consciousness? And in the Bhagavatam, it gives us a very wonderful prescription, or very wonderful description of how we do that. That's in the first canto, second chapter. Shushusho Shadadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahat Seva Vipra Punya Tirtana Shevana. So it says, by serving great souls who are completely free from vice, great service is done. And what happens then? It says one gains a taste for hearing the messages of Krishna. One gains a taste for Krishna consciousness. So, of course, we serve Srila Prabhupada. Hearing from Prabhupada is wonderful service, and that by serving great souls, the best thing we could do is hear. And we're hearing from, we should be hearing from Srila Prabhupada on a regular basis, his lectures, kirtans, and also reading his books. And these books, they're like recorded kirtans. Prabhupada did in the dictaphone, right? He spoke. So they're recorded kirtans. So in this way, we're serving pure devotee by hearing from him. And also by book distribution, which I was very happy to hear this morning. $1,000, 1,000 Lakshmi collected and so many books distributed. Absolutely amazing. So by distribution of books, we're giving people the opportunity to hear from a pure devotee, and they're getting purified. And gradually they're making their way to developing a taste for Krishna consciousness. So yeah, that the development of taste is absolutely necessary and needed. But also, one should not think that. One should also think that. One should also be enthusiastic to serve all devotees, because that's our program. Like there's a particular in scriptural reference that says, oh, there's no, one of the three most basic, or one of the three important recommendations for this age is Vaishnav Seva, serving the devotees, chanting the holy name, and giving mercy to the conditioned souls. These are very important principles. So we should be in the mood of service to all devotees. And if someone thinks, well, somebody's maybe not so advanced, so how am I supposed to serve them? Well, if they're not so advanced, and then you could serve them by helping them advance. You could give them some association. So yeah, and if we don't develop this higher taste, then it creates a lot of problems. It creates a lot of problems, and actually we don't become successful, and we'll never become successful until we develop a taste, and we'll always remain in the cycle of birth and death for a long, long time, unless the taste is developed. Just like Srila Haridas Thakur, it was his disappearance recently. And Haridas Thakur is an absolutely wonderful example for all devotees for all time, for so many different reasons. But one reason, as everybody here knows, an envious person, he wanted to scar Haridas Thakur or stain Haridas Thakur's reputation. So Haridas Thakur, very young man, handsome, he was chanting his japa late at night, and then this envious person, Kazi, what did he do? He sent a prostitute. Here where it's mentioning prostitutes, so he sent a prostitute. He hired a woman to go stain his personality. So she went there, and he was chanting there. It was at night, and then she started to speak to Haridas Thakur and say, "You're such, in essence, you're such a handsome, personality and wonderful person, this and that, and I would like to be with you, and I'd like to enjoy with you." So Haridas Thakur, he said, okay, well, I have some rounds to complete, so as soon as I complete my rounds, surely I'll satisfy your desire. So you could just sit here, and then you could wait for some time. So then, as we know, he chants a lot of rounds, so he's chanting, and then the sun comes up. So then he says, oh, I'm so sorry, you come back the next night. So that happens a few nights in a row. And then eventually, because she was hearing from such a great personality, she became purified. And she became purified to such a degree that she became sorry for what she was doing, and she actually became a great devotee. She gave up everything, and she became a great saint. Now, someone will say that, well, I may not have to undergo something like Haridas Thakur did, such a test. Okay, fine. We could hope for that. But there will be other tests. Tests of, am I trying to rise in different positions within the temples or the ISKCON for the wrong reasons? Tests for money, for wealth. Am I trying to collect wealth for the wrong reasons? Am I trying to get respect and adoration for the wrong reasons? Am I trying to get big book scores for the wrong reasons? Whatever it is, there may be so many tests. And there also may be tests of us following the regulative principles. So you're out on Sankirtan or something, and somebody tries to pass you a bottle of beer or, pipe or something. I mean, it happens. And some devotees could just laugh it off like, oh, no, that's okay, and they don't have a problem. But some may have a problem. So whatever it is, Maya knows our weak spots. So those tests may come. So what do we do when those tests come? we should have the strength to avoid them. We should have the strength to not be not to succumb to them. So that strength has to be developed by association with devotees, and also as Sachinandan Prabhu was saying the other day, that we have to be together. It's a Sankirtan movement for a reason, because we're all supposed to be together. Of course, we all have our services, and brings us apart throughout the day a lot of the time, and so on. But when it really comes down to it, it's a Sankirtan movement, which means together. As he was saying the other day, as I think it's a army saying, or some American army saying. I'm not. Anyway, maybe someone could tell me, but united we stand means we're all together. We stand. We're strong. Ready to fight. Right? Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan army. And divided we fall. So, or specifically, as he was saying, you put a bunch of sticks together, they're very difficult to break. One could be broken very easily. So Sankirtan movement means congregational chanting, serving together. And that will help us become strong. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada, he instituted the morning program, evening program, so many things like that. To Harinam Sankirtan, distributing books together. And in this way we can feed off each other's enthusiasm. Because it may so happen that sometimes we may not be enthusiastic. Maybe one day we're enthusiastic, one day we're not. So if we have somebody who's like our friend, we have some friends, then they could enthuse us. Just like Jayadvaita Swami and His Holiness Giraj Swami, they were together one time, and it was in the night time, and then Jayadvaita Swami told Giraj Swami that please wake me up in the morning. And he said, Jayadvaita Swami said, whatever I say, whatever type of attitude I give you, whatever happens, just wake me up in the morning. So that was an interesting thing, because he was saying that, okay, for whatever reason, I may have a hard time. It's a late night or whatever may happen. You may have a hard time getting up. But if somebody's there to help us get up, it's important. It's valuable. And those of us who chant Gayatri, which I'm not going to chant the Gayatri mantras here, don't worry. Although Prabhupada does write them in his Chaitanya Charitamrita, so when we give class we say it out loud. But anyways, I won't say them, but those who chant Gayatri, and everybody should, take the opportunity to become second initiated, go on the altar, become qualified, go on the altar, serve the deities. It's a very special service. It's one of the 5 most potent forms of devotional service. So those who chant Gayatri, there's meditation on Krishna, meditation on Lord Chaitanya, meditation on the spiritual master. And so much of those mantras, it's about enthusiasm. Please enthuse me, please enthuse me, please enthuse me. So, and you're chanting 3 times a day. So practically this enthusiasm is what is fueling our spiritual lives, what is fueling ISKCON, what was fueling Srila Prabhupada, then enthusiasm. So without enthusiasm, what do we have? Therefore, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, those who have life, they can preach. He said, a dead man can't preach. So you have to have that enthusiasm. In this enthusiasm, it's a very special thing, because it's actually coming in disciplic succession. It's not just some ordinary enthusiasm, not some just kind of religious fervor, kind of working ourselves up, right? It's actually real, and it's coming in the disciplic succession, right? Lord Chaitanya gave it to the 6 Goswamis, gave it to different, acharyas, and then it comes down. Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave it to his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Gorkashodas Babaji, gave it to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and his father. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave that enthusiasm to our Srila Prabhupada. And then Srila Prabhupada gave it to his disciples. and then his disciples are giving it to their disciples and other devotees. So, and if the enthusiasm dwindles, then everything's lost. So we have to have that enthusiasm. Utsaha nishchayaddharya tat tat karma vivartanat sangha tyagat satovrite shadbir bhakti prasidati. Rupa Goswami says enthusiasm is one of the things that will make us successful. So yeah, Prabhupada's mentioning many things here. As he told a few devotees, my books will be the law books for the next 10,000 years. He told Rameshwar Prabhu that and others. So he's giving different guidelines for the state to follow. Akadashi, young girls, Prabhupada says age 16, boys 24, they should be married. Charity, chanting the glories of the Lord. So it may seem that to institute these things in modern society, we're quite far from that. I mean, Los Angeles, it's quite far from that. Any place in America is quite far from that. But at least we could follow those ourselves. We could follow those within our temples. And try to understand the importance of them. So Kadashi's there. And then also in relation to marriage, 1624, I mean, Srila Prabhupada explains it as that naturally when young boys and girls become a particular age, there's an attraction that develops. I think everybody knows about that. Or have everybody seen that before, experienced that? So there's an attraction that develops. And Srila Prabhupada, the explanation is that when that attraction develops, it's best that there's just a marriage takes place, and the reason being is so their minds could be peaceful. Not that they're have to, have 50 boyfriend and girlfriends before they get married, because it does a lot of damage actually to the mind, that those types of experiences. So therefore, early age. And I mean, again, like modern society is so far from this. I'm sorry to say, please forgive me, I don't want to, but I met a boy, I live there at the San Diego Temple, and we have our Western preaching program, Krishna Lounge there, and meet a lot of people there. And he was with a girl, and then I asked him, I said, what happened to your girlfriend? And then he told me that she said, she told him that, I have to explore more. I have to explore more. And then I asked him, anyways, maybe I'm too inquisitive sometimes, but I asked him, I said, oh, well, what did she mean by that? She has to explore, And then he said, well, she meant like exploring, like sexual relationships. And then she went on to continue that, oh, well, if I'm with you, I can't really do that, so therefore we have to break up. And then, so this is what this girl's, mind's thinking. I mean, it's actually quite sad and pathetic. And this is what people, general population is, the mindset that we have senses, and the goal of life is just to gratify them. So Krishna consciousness is there to make women chaste, not like this woman, and to make men also chaste, but strong, responsible, like that. So yeah, we have a far ways to go, at least in helping modern society, but we could try in our own ways, right? Book distribution, Harinam, so many different ways. And you could say the best way, or one of the best ways, is that if we ourselves are good devotees. Because what's that saying? Examples higher than precept. So of course we speak and we speak and we speak and we speak a lot, but really the example has to be there. And that's how Srila Prabhupada actually captured the heart of so many people, so many devotees. is by his example. So many people, they speak the philosophy, they chant Hare Krishna, they do so many things. But Srila Prabhupada, when he spoke Krishna Katha, chanted Hare Krishna, it had such an impact on people that it immediately changed them in so many cases. So that example has to be there, and specifically that example of uh, of ecstasy. And lastly, one devotee told me that, I believe it was here in Los Angeles, but wherever it was, Srila Prabhupada, he arrived at an airport, and devotees were crying and crying and crying. And then Prabhupada came to the temple, and devotees were crying, crying, crying. And then Prabhupada walked upstairs, and devotees were crying, crying, crying. And Srila Prabhupada was going to retire and move on, and then he just kind of said, okay, well, thank you very much, and now I'm going to retire, and all the devotees left. So, and it's not that Prabhupada just arrived at the airport, and he just came to the temple, and he just walked. But he had such an effect on people who were just crying, 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 crying. Maybe some devotees here had that experience. So, of course, to become super elevated may seem difficult for us, but actually we should want that, so we could help others. And that's what Lord Chaitanya said, Yari Dekataka Krishna Badesh. Wherever you go, whoever you meet, tell them about Krishna, and this way become a guru. And by doing that, we could actually save people from this type of lifestyle, these four sinful pillars. Jagannath, Hare Krishna. Okay, so does anyone have any questions? Yes. Or comments? You have a microphone? Yes.
But is a very introspective and eye-opening, Krishna-opening class.
Oh, thank you.
And just on this, since you mentioned, I did have the ecstatic opportunity to greet Prabhupada at the airport, and I'd only been in the temple for a couple weeks, and it was just overwhelming. I was just, as soon as I saw him, this gratefulness and this oh my God, I finally found my Father, my spiritual master. This is I've seen, it's a common experience.
Yeah.
But you made some very good points, one of which, like you mentioned, this young man, and I even know this is what's out there in society. Even my wife, who was born in 1953, her mom told her when she became a teenager that you have to go out and, check. Her own mother was preaching to her that way. And I remember from the old days, everyone did everything together. That's when I first joined. My brother, who joined first, he came and invited me to come to the temple, and I stayed for 2 weeks. I was so ecstatic. On Sunday, everyone was in the kitchen. On Harinam, everyone went out on Hari. We did everything together, and it was just ecstatic. It was so wonderful. And now it's everyone's in their own world, their own room, but it's important to associate, and one of the main factors of association that's in the 6 loving exchanges you quoted from Rupa Goswami, accepting prasadam and receiving and like that, and also revealing one's mind in confidence, and also giving. So this is an important factor that's not so much developed and emphasized that much in ISKCON, but devotees should come together. We're doing this mantra retreat coming up in New Vrindavan, but on our own we should try and find mentors. I know that Vaisheshika Prabhu has emphasized this in many of his classes. You should have someone you can go to, and likewise, it's part of the process of,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, my spiritual master, His Holiness Garrett Swami, he tells of his own life, and I repeat this often, but I think it's important. He said that at a particular time in ISKCON there was a lot of chaos and a lot of difficulty, specifically in the 80s, and that a lot of the leaders of the movement were actually leaving. I mean, it's kind of shocking. Like now, Archita Prabhu's gone and Savas Prabhu and Naikatma, and maybe you feel a little pinch from it. And if you don't, just imagine if they didn't come back. So, they're persons who help, and help keep things together. So you can imagine, I mean, such, guru, they just like leave and they don't come back. So that's what was happening. And my spiritual master, he was in South Africa and Mauritius at the time, and because everybody was so busy trying to take care of their zones, and he didn't get a lot of association of his godbrothers, which he felt he needed. So at one particular time, he went to Dallas, Texas, and he went to visit Tamal Krishna Goswami. So then Tamal Krishna Goswami and himself, they're up in Goswami Maharaj's quarters, and they were talking in the evening. And my spiritual master started to reveal his mind, which is really important. As you're saying, and Rupa Goswami says, reveal your mind. So he started to reveal his mind, and he started to say that, he said that, I feel like I need some association, but I'm having a difficult time getting it because Mauritius and South Africa were kind of out of the way, and they're busy with godbrothers, taking care of their duties. So then Tamal Krishna Goswami said something practical and very good. He said, well, you have to go out of your way to get it. So some people say, I need association. You have to go out of your way to get it somehow or other. It means we could get it in ISKCON, we could get it in our communities, but we have to extend ourselves. Can't just wait for somebody to come up and, give us their association or something. So he said you have to go out of your way to get it. And then they continued, and my spiritual master was saying how he felt discouraged from what was going on, and he had a bit of this idea that he wouldn't trust anybody besides Prabhupada, because and then Tamal Krishna Goswami said something interesting to him. He said that I got my first initiation from Prabhupada, I got my second initiation from Prabhupada, and I got third initiation sannyas from Prabhupada. But I still feel that I need Shiksha gurus. And then he started naming some of his Shiksha gurus. It's like Shiva Ramaswamy, different devotees. And interesting enough is Tamal Krishna Goswami named His Holiness Giraj Swami as a Shiksha guru. They were talking to each other. He said, you're one of my Shiksha gurus. So then, still my spiritual master, because of what was going on, he had to think about it some more. Then the next morning, they're in the temple room, and they're all chanting together japa. So then my spiritual master, he goes up to Tamal Krishna Goswami, and he says, I thought about what you said, and it's true. We all need Shiksha gurus. And in essence, he said, will you accept me as a Shiksha guru? He offered obeisances like that, so they had that relationship. So yeah, that's important because it's not always clear what we should do in our lives. And also the philosophy and so many other things are not always clear. So therefore, to check with devotees is extremely important, therefore Shiksha gurus. Just like again, Tamal Krishna Goswami, maybe some of you know, but I'm sure some of you know, but as a sannyasi went back to college, university. And that was a radical thing. It's, devotees didn't do that. So he was thinking in his mind, is this right? Is this right? Is this right? And he talked to so many of his Shiksha gurus about it over and over and over again. And they all said, yes, you should do this. Prabhupada wants this. You should do this. You should do this. And then he said after 2.5 years, he started to become convinced, because that Krishna wants him to do it. So it's not always clear. And our spiritual master, Diksha's spiritual master, in the case of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, I mean, we can't always go up and just ask and get a clear answer. We could pray and so many things, but the Shiksha Guru is important. So, yeah, like you're saying. Yeah. Okay, so one last.
Thank you very much for the wonderful class, Prabhu. So, Srila Prabhupada, he was mentioning that 1624 means, girls has to get married at 16 and
Yes.
boys 24. That means in the past, the girls doesn't need to go to college or university like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, Prabhupada does mention in the next sentence, he says, there's no harm in coeducation in the schools and colleges, provided the boys and girls are duly married. Now, of course, the traditional system for women was not like it is now. It's like opposite. The traditional system is that women, they're educated, but they're educated how to be a good mother, how to be a good wife, and how to do practical things that wife and mothers do. So they'd be trained at the house, by their mothers or grandmother, like that. And that was their main service, which is a really important service. I mean, sometimes people think, oh, to be a mother, that's like, I don't know, low class or not important, but it's like one of the most important, actually. It says mother's the first guru. So all that affection, all that love, it needs to pour out to the children for them to be sane. Therefore, there's an insane society. Insane society. There's an insane society. Modern society.
There's a very important saying that came from India. It said the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world.
Oh, really?
The hand
Interesting.
that rocks the cradle rules the world.
The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. So, Varna Shankara, why is that there? Disturbed population. Because of the parents are not good, largely. The parents are, kids themselves. Means, they're like 25 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, but practically didn't mature past 15. So, yeah, and the leaders of the world, and so. So that's the traditional system. Now, how things look nowadays, and what people do nowadays, and so many things. It's a long topic, long conversation. But it seems from this that Prabhupada's still recommending that because that's a Vedic system, and Prabhupada does recommend more traditional things quite often. I mean, he'll even quote stuff from, Manu Samhita and different books like that, which is super traditional, So. So yeah. So. Okay. All right. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gauda Bhaktivinoda ki jai.